What's going on, everybody? I'm Mr. Marklevitz, and today we are going to be taking a look at Lesson 1.1, Narrative Structure. All right, what do we mean by narrative structure, right? Well, this is just storytelling, right? Almost every film, almost every popular film that you've probably seen in your life has had a story, right? The timeline of events present in any narrative, right? What's happening? Why am I watching this movie, right? I'm watching this movie because I want to see a character go on a journey, right? I want to see a character develop. And that's basically, why a lot of people tune in to movies, right? We want a good story. The plot, similar, but a little different, is how the story is actually told, okay? The sequence of events that you arrange in a very specific way in order to make the story more interesting, right? So, how do we do that, right? Well, there's many different ways. The most common, I think, in film production, is the 3-act structure. Now, we are going to be taking a look at the 3-act structure here in just a second as it pertains to a very popular film that hopefully you should have seen by now. If not, I'm sorry, because I'm going to spoil it for you, but Toy Story, okay, the original Toy Story. We're going to take a look at Toy Story here in a few minutes. So if you haven't seen Toy Story in your life up to this point, pause the video and go do that, and then meet back with us in an hour and a half, okay? But before we get into 3-act structure, let's take a look at some other story devices that are typical in films that sort of aid the storytelling process, right? A lot of films will utilize what are called flashbacks, right? Flashbacks, a scene that breaks the chronological flow by referring to the past. I guess it's not just referring to the past, like, hey, remember when we did that thing? But actually cutting and taking us to the past, right? Going back to a previous event, right? Would be an example of a flashback. So in this example from Titanic, Rose, the main character of the film, is an old lady, and she is speaking to Bill Paxton's character about her time on the Titanic, and we sort of, push in on the close-up here, and now we are back in the past, right? Rose is a young woman, she is about to board the Titanic, and this is now a flashback, right? The entire film, technically, is a flashback. Another story device that gets used a lot is foreshadowing, an indication of future events. Anytime something seemingly insignificant is mentioned early in the film, but then it really pays off later in the film, okay? So in this example from Jurassic Park, we meet the two children, Lex and Tim, and Tim is making fun of Lex for being a computer nerd. And you might be saying to yourself, why are we learning this information about this character? I wonder if it'll pay off later. And it does. Okay? Now, I'm not going to spoil Jurassic Park because we are going to watch that movie later in the year. But yeah, anytime you see a character who's divulging some information about themselves and you go, why did we need to know that? Well, chances are you'll figure out by the end, okay? Here's another example from Billy Madison. Billy is calling all of the old people that he used to make fun of when he was in high school to apologize, and while apologizing to Steve Buscemi's character, they end the conversation by saying,
maybe we can get together sometime and have some coffee or something.
Sure, I'd like that.
And at that moment, you might be saying, we're never going to see Steve Buscemi's character again. But then we do. He shows up at the end. They get together, okay? And how do they get together? Well, that leads us to our third story device here, which is called deus ex machina. An unexpected event saves a seemingly hopeless situation. I'm going to ruin Billy Madison here, so sorry. In the climactic moment from Billy Madison, Billy is on stage at his high school, and it looks like all hope is lost, right? The antagonist character is about to shoot him in front of everybody, and right when he's about to pull the trigger, the antagonist gets shot in the butt, By who? Steve Buscemi.
Man, I'm glad I called that guy.
A lot of people consider it sort of lazy writing to include a deus ex machina in your film. Whatever. Hey, whatever it takes to get us to the big happy ending, use it. But if you see moments in that, like in The Hobbit, when the eagles show up out of nowhere and you go, oh man, I'm glad those eagles showed up just in time, that's another example of deus ex machina. Now again, if you have not seen Toy Story from 1995, I apologize, because I'm going to ruin it, but you should have seen that one by now, all right? That's a famous one. Anyway, what is 3-act structure, right? It's just a blueprint for how you can tell a compelling story, right? And it's broken up into 3 parts. Act 1, the setup. Act 2, the confrontation. And Act 3, the resolution, okay? So Act 1 starts with an opener, right? Some sort of, basic exposition where we're meeting the characters. We get a sense of, who's our protagonist, who are their friends, what kind of world do they live in. And the opener in Toy Story is Andy's birthday, right? Woody is obviously the leader of all of the toys, and they're having this meeting about moving and make sure everybody has a buddy, and then that leads us to the inciting incident, right? The toys are worried that with Andy's birthday, some of them might get replaced, okay? Woody, who is Andy's favorite, doesn't feel threatened at all, but then there's this inciting incident, right, where something happens to our protagonist that sort of turns their world upside down, right? It sort of screeches the brakes here. Is that a word? Sure. And that moment in Toy Story is, well, Andy receives Buzz Lightyear, and Buzz Lightyear is cool. And not only does Andy love Buzz Lightyear, so do the other toys. And Woody feels threatened by Buzz, okay? There is an immediate confrontation between these two characters, okay? And then that leads us to the Act 1 climax, that moment that is going to send our protagonist, Woody, on his journey, right? So in this example, it's the moment where Woody accidentally knocks Buzz out of the window with the lamp, okay? That is the start of our journey. That is what's going to propel Woody into, his journey, I guess, okay? And that's what takes us, the viewers, into Act 2, the confrontation, right? You can't just go down and get Buzz. You can't just string the barrel of monkeys down and get Buzz and bring him back up, because that's too easy, right? You have to make it difficult. So, what happens? Well, in the first half of Act 2, Woody is sort of getting adjusted to his new environment. In this case, Woody follows Buzz to Pizza Planet. I realize I haven't seen Toy Story in a long time. Andy takes Woody with him in the car. They end up seeing... Somehow Buzz gets into the Pizza Planet truck and follows him. I don't remember. Whatever. But the first half of Act 2 is your characters getting adjusted to their new environment, okay? It's fun, right? It's weird and it's different, but hey, we're on an adventure and this is kind of interesting, okay? Then in the midpoint of Act 2, something happens that really shifts the narrative into a new direction and really, ratchets up the tension. So in this moment, they're at Pizza Planet and Sid pulls Buzz and Woody out of the claw game, right? And we've already met Sid. We know that he's not a good guy, right? He's the next door neighbor to Andy. So now that Sid has Woody and Buzz, Woody and Buzz are together, but now they're with Sid. That's bad, right? That's really gonna take what we thought was a fun journey into something new and scary, okay? And that leads us to the second half of Act 2, trying to escape Sid's house, right? Now things are darker. The journey isn't so fun anymore, okay? New obstacles arise, new challenges and all this stuff. And then that leads us to the Act 2 climax. In this case, Woody saves Buzz, right? Buzz is about to be blasted into the air. He's tied to a rocket, and Sid is going to, shoot him up into the air and blow him up. And right before that happens, Woody says, reach for the skies. And Woody, with the help of all of Sid's misfit toys, come together and they're able to save Buzz, all right? And that moment, if you were paying attention to my lecture earlier, would be the deus ex machina. Good, yeah, all right? All hope seems lost for Buzz in that moment, and here's Woody now saving him. Woody has a change of heart. Also, the misfit toys are kind of scary up to this point, and then we realize, oh no, they're friendly, right? They'll help a fellow toy out. But the story's not over, right? It's not just escaping Sid that we need to worry about. We got to get back to Andy, right? The toys are moving. Andy's gone. We need to get Woody and Buzz back to Andy and the other toys, okay? So now we've got that chase scene, right? Where Woody and Buzz are on the race car, and the race car runs out of batteries, and Slinky Dog is there, and he's pulling them, but he gets stretched too far, and he, whatever. Anyway, the climactic moment. This is your most, the audience should be the most engaged at this moment. This is, usually at the end of the film where you just go, oh, they're not going to make it. And usually they do, all right? And in this case, certainly they do. But Woody and Buzz must get back to the other toys. But again, you don't want to make it too easy, right? So most storytellers will include some sort of twist. Now, at the end of Toy Story, in this climactic moment, there are a lot of twists, okay? The other toys thinking that Woody is trying to get rid of the race car, so they knock him out of the truck. The race car runs out of batteries. The Slinky gets stretched too thin. All of these things would be considered twists. But I think the most significant twist in this moment is that the match won't light, right? Woody realizes, hey, Buzz, you're still strapped to this rocket. If I just, and I have a match, if I just light your rocket, we can, shoot into the truck. But then he lights the match and a car goes by and blows it out. Now what do we do? Okay, here's where foreshadowing comes into play. Because earlier in the film, Sid was torturing Woody with a magnifying glass. Woody now learns, hey, if I just, use Buzz's helmet and kind of shine it on the wick of the rocket, I can start a fire. And that's what he does. That's how they overcome the twist. Again, you don't want to make it too easy for your characters, even in this, final moment. Then the resolution, that it works, the toys are reunited, and then finally we get the happily ever after denouement, where Andy gets a dog. Now we're, a year later, it's Christmas, or it's Andy's next birthday, I forget, but Andy gets a dog, and all the toys live happily ever after. Woody has changed as a character, he's grown, all of the toys are happy, and things are great. Now, if you need any help further understanding 3-act structure, I posted some other videos, other resources from YouTubers who are much better at this than I am. So you can check out those resources, or just watch this video again, whatever. But your lab assignment for this week, you are going to present a film of your choice and break down its plot using the 3-act structure. Okay, so you can pick any film that you're familiar with, right? And you're gonna do a PowerPoint presentation or a slides presentation, whatever you're familiar with or comfortable with, and break down the 3-act structure. So what do I wanna see? Obviously, you have to have some sort of title slide. I want to see Act 1 with the opener, the inciting incident, the Act 1 climax. I want to see a slide for Act 2 where you have, the events that happen in the first half of Act 2, the midpoint, the events that happen in the second act, the second half of Act 2, and then finally the Act 2 climax, and then a third slide where you have the climax, the twist if it exists, all right? Chances are there is a twist, but I recognize that not all stories do. And then the resolution and the denouement, right? The happily ever after. Now everything is, order has been restored to the universe moment, okay? And then you're gonna present those to class whenever they're ready, okay? If you have any questions about that, again, just talk to me during our time, email me, or just whatever, okay? And then this week we are going to be watching Knives Out from 2019, one of the most recent films that we'll be watching this year. Knives Out, again, follows the 3-act structure. There are several examples of flashbacks, a lot of foreshadowing, and without spoiling it too much, yes, there is a deus ex machina moment, right? That's why I chose this film. I think you're going to enjoy it. We'll talk about it soon, depending on when you're watching this video. And yeah, I'll discuss Knives Out in more detail in class. So there you go, guys. I hope this was beneficial for you. Narrative structure, use it!